بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, most merciful and compassionate. The khutbah or sermon which I started explaining last week is sermon 186, and 184 with regard to its English translation. So, however, the English translations of this khutbah and of the other sermons or khutab are not quite exact, and they cannot be technically confirmed. However, half a loaf is better than nothing. You can just read, but it should be known the translations are not quite correct, because with regard to translation, I mean, is an art in one sense. At the same time, some people usually try just to translate, for example, a technical passage literally. However, sometimes it is not possible, I mean, to translate some of the concepts or words just literally. Rather, the meanings, the true meanings of the words should be taken into consideration, for example, with regard to Nahjul Balagha. Anyway, as we know, the foundation of the religion of Islam, as well as the foundations of the other revealed religions, is Tawheed, I mean, the belief in the one God. What every Muslim or believer should do is to strengthen the foundation of her or his fundamental beliefs. The firmer the foundation of the religion is, the firmer the belief of the believer will be. One of the problems, or main problems, with most of the seemingly believing people is that their tawheed or their belief in God is not so strong or so firm as not to shake while confronting or facing any misleading situation. That is why some people might lose, their beliefs just because sometimes they might confront or face certain misleading situations which might lead them to lose or to turn weak in their own beliefs. So Tawheed is very important, and it is for the same reason that Imam Ali alayhi salam emphasizes Tawheed or the oneness of God so much in the Nahjul Balagha. Imam Ali in this khutbah goes into details. So it is not possible, to understand this khutbah just by reading once or twice. The more we read, the more we understand what is really meant by the Imam. As I said last week, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one in its true sense. He has no like. He cannot be compared to anything. He cannot be likened to anything. He cannot be pointed to. Everything known, everything that is known in itself is created, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be known. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be comprehended as He is, except that we can know Him through the qualities based on which he describes himself, or by having recourse to the teachings or sermons or ahadith or traditions as narrated by the holy Shiite Imams alayhum as-salam. Therefore, Tawheed, or the oneness of God, cannot be achieved save through appealing to the Aimma alayhum as-salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is self-subsistent, while all other than Him subsist through Him. Sorry, because of my throat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pre-eternal. He has no beginning, not in the temporal sense. He is the first, not in the temporal sense. He is the last, not in the temporal sense. He is pre-eternal. He has no beginning. He is post-eternal. He has no end. Kan Allah walam yakun ma'ahu shay'a. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was. Was is a past tense verb, a simple past tense verb. But when we use was or were, was, with regard to the created beings, it means that we say he was, it means that he was sometime in the past. But the verb was with regard to Allah is a tenseless verb, a tenseless verb. So no tense cannot be used of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very delicate and exact point which should not be ignored, technically speaking. We came to the point where I said last week, La yushmalu bihaddin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no limit. No limit. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlimited. His essence has no limits. But we as human beings, we as creatures, have limits. We are limited in every respect. In terms of quiddity or mahiyah, al-insaniyah, humanness, is itself a limit. Is itself a limit. Al-insaniyah, I am a human being. My humanness is a limit beyond which I cannot go. My humanness demarcates me, sets me apart from animals and other species of creatures. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His essence has no limit. وَلَا يُحْسَبُ بِعَدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a very important point. Some simple-minded people might think that Tawheed is just knowing that Allah is the creator. No, Tawheed itself has a lot of implications, has a lot of details, so there is a lot to know about God, where by appealing to, by seeking help from the teachings of the Aimma alayhum as-salam. Otherwise, one will fall into an ocean of confusion. So many books written by so many pseudo philosophers, by so many religious thinkers about God and so on. So if you go, for example, to the John Rylands Library of Manchester University, if you go, for example, to the section on religion, you will find thousands and hundreds of books. So you might ask yourself, which book to read about God, the best thing to do, and we might feel confused by reading this book and that book. So we will face as many different ideas as possible. So what shall we do? We had better purify our minds of any deviating ideas and go straight to the source, to the fountainhead of wisdom and knowledge. Imam Ali alayhi salam, Nahjul Balagha. So Imam says, وَلَا يُحْسَبُ بِعَدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, but not in the numerical sense. When I say one, one is followed by two, two, three, because one is a number. Any number can be followed by another number. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His essence, His oneness is not of the numerical species, of the numerical kind. So Ibn Sina, the Latin Avicenna, says the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means true, real unity. Allah is one in its true, real sense, with no second, with no second. While with regard to the creatures, I say, for example, one person, this first one, the second one, Ahmad, Hassan, Ali. So one in its numerical sense is applied to us, but with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we say Allah is one, not in the numerical sense at all. So His essence cannot be considered numerically, while all the contingent or creatures can be considered numerically. 2 people, 3 people, 1 chair, 2 chairs, 1 house, 2 houses, 1 car, 2 cars, and 1 planet, 2 planets, and so 1 star, 2 stars. So number can be applied to all the creatures except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose oneness does not have any numerical sense at all. وَإِنَّمَا تَحُدُّ الْأَدَوَاتِ أَنفُسَهَا. Adawat is the plural of ada. Adat. Ada in Arabic means instrument, tool. Sorry. Tool. A pencil is limited with regard to its pencilness. Furthermore, we as humans, we as creatures are limited to time and space. Everything in the universe exists or is situated within the bounds or limits of time and space. Everything. So we are limited to time and space, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited to time or space, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends, lies above time and space. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was in the tenseless sense, while there was no time and space. Time and space were created, emerged after the creation of the universe. We are limited in every respect, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no limits in the absolute sense. وتشير الآلة إلى نظائرها. آلة, for example, everything which we use as a tool, as an instrument. A pencil itself means that there are so many other pencils. A human being, one person, means that there are so many other persons or people like that person. A book, so many other books. A car, so many other cars. Every creature has a lot of similar, every creature has a lot of similar things like itself. Because all the creatures are created, have physical or material attributes. So anything being a physical being thing means that there are so many others like it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-iyazu billah, is not of a physical nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends every creaturely attributes at all. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unique at all, without having any like. منعتها منذ الغدمية. In Arabic we say, for example, منذ in Arabic is equivalent to since. منذ is used of time. For example, I've been here since, for example, 1992. Or for example, منذ indicates beginning, temporal beginning. Anything having a temporal beginning means that that thing or that something emerged, was created at a certain point in time. منذ. So anything indicating a temporal beginning negates eternity from that thing, that something. Because Ghadamiyya means being eternal, having no temporal beginning. So munzu, literally speaking, which means temporal beginning, since, and so on, cannot be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no temporal beginning. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal. Let me explain it more simply. What does eternity mean? Ghadamiyya means having no temporal beginning. Alright? On the contrary, anything having a temporal beginning means that it is not eternal. So createdness, the opposite of being eternal. So munzu cannot be applied to God. Like black and white. Black and white. If something is white, blackness cannot be applied to it. If blackness is applied to it, so whiteness will be negated from it, as indicated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So munzu negates eternity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no eternal beginning. And Ghadamiyya precedes time. وحمتها غد al-adhaliyya. Qad in Arabic is used for qad in Arabic is used in present perfect tense. For example, we say qad zahaba, he has gone. Qad jaa, he has come. But qad cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pre-eternal. So qad cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot say, for example, qad yakuno. For example, qad yakuno means he has been. But we cannot say with regard to Allah, Allah has been, God has been, meaning that, for example, God has been for a certain period of time. No, it is not correct, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, time cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the same way that munzu, which indicates temporal beginning, cannot be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as is the case with qad. Qad is used in present perfect tense. For example, qad yashabu, he has gone. Qad yaji'u, for example, he has come. But we cannot use such sentences with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Imam says, وَجَنَّبَتْهَا لَوْلَا التَّكْمِلَةَ. جَنَّبَتْهَا, لَوْلَا means if it were not. If it were not. If it were not cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it were not, you know that it is a conditional sentence. It is a conditional clause. For example, if it were not so, it would be better. If it were not so, it would be better. What does it mean? For example, we see a book or a pen. There might be some sort of fault or problem with the pen. Then I say, if it were not so, it would be better. It means that the pencil would be better if it does not have this problem. The pencil would be more perfect if we couldn't see such a fault in this pencil. If it were not, which keeps a creature from being perfect, cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this room were not small, it, of course, for example, if that room or this room were not, however, in English it is not correct to say this one. Alright, let me use the past condition. If this room had not been small, it would have been better. If there were a different situation, it would be better. If there had been a different situation, it would have been better. But we cannot use if it were not, lawla, if it had not been, with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah had not done so, it would have been better. No. So, munzu, qad, walawla cannot be used. All these three expressions cannot be used with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot use it. If it were not, if I were not here, it would be better. If I had not been there, it would be better. if I had not been so, it would have been better. No. Why? Because if it were not, indicates imperfection. Indicate wishing for the better, wishing for the more perfect. But with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah, whatever Allah does is absolutely perfect, based on absolute wisdom. No change is required. No change. Changing for the better, wishing for the better, all are applied to human beings, not with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بها تجلى صانعها للعقول. بها, through them, by them. How? Through منذ قد ولولا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala تجلى صانعها للعقول. These three expressions revealed, made the Creator manifest to the creatures. When we consider that all the creatures are limited to time and so on, means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from all these qualities. للعقول, to the intellects. The Creator becomes revealed, becomes known to the intellects. How? Through the imperfections, through the limits of the creatures. In other words, through the physical attributes or qualities of the creatures, with regard to the imperfections of the creatures, the Creator reveals, becomes revealed or knows to our intellects, not to our eyes, to our intellects. We will come to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rationally, right? How? Through the creatures, through the attributes of the creatures. The limits of the creatures mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no limits. The beginning and the end of every creature means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no beginning and no end. Tajal biha. Biha means through them. Through what? Through munzu, qad, walula. Tajalla sani'aha. Tajalla means became manifest. Sorry, this sentence is not grammatically correct. I am doing a literal translation. Tajalla sani'aha, their Creator. Tajalla became manifest. To what? Not to the eyes, to the intellects. Intellects. Please pay close attention to the intellects. وبها امتنع عن نظر العيون. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from every created quality, امتنع نظر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be physically visible, cannot be physically seen. It is quite clear how God, who transcends every created quality, be seen by the eyes. لا تدركه الأبصار. Physical eyes cannot comprehend God. except through the eye of the heart. With regard to creatures or things, all creatures are limited to time. The existence of every creature follows non-existent. I did not exist at some point in time. Then I was begotten, then I was born. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be seen because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from every creaturely quality, like temporal beginning or anything else which can be applied to us as creatures. Furthermore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be physically visible. Why? Because there is no mujanasa, no similarity between Allah and the eye, between Allah and other creatures. The commentator says that vision, sight, seeing, needs some sort of similarity. What does it mean? The eye, right, is a physical organ of sense, okay? This eye, which has the faculty of vision, which is used for sight or seeing, can be applied, can be used just of those which are similar to the eye in some sense. The eye is of a physical nature, right? It can see just a glass, disposable glass, which is a cup, which is also of a physical nature. The pencil, which is of a physical nature. The eye can see everything which is limited to 3 dimensions, or to 2 dimensions, or to 1 dimension, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of a diametrically different essence. This eye cannot, except the eye of the heart. This is what Imam Ali alayhi salam said in answer to the question asked by Zilab, as I read part of the hadith last week. The time. For how many minutes? Okay. Right. ولا يجري عليه السكون والحركة. Sukun can be stillness. Sukun is the opposite of motion. Haraka, motion. Stillness, immobility, and motion cannot be used of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I can be still, motionless. I can move anywhere I like. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why? Is huma min awsafil jism as-sukun wal haraka. Stillness, motionlessness, and motion are among the physical, or of the physical qualities. So how can we say Allah is sitting, al-iyadhu billah, while in some of the Sunni books we come across such physical attributes to which if you remember, I referred a few months ago in this very place. وَلَيْسَ سُبْحَانَهُ Jisman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not of a physical nature. That is why we should deepen our insight, our intellect, our power of reasoning in order to understand, in order to know Allah better and better. وَكَيْفَ يَجْرِي عَلَيْهِ مَا هُوَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَكَيْفَ يَجْرِي عَلَيْهِ مَا هُوَ أَجْرَاهُ How is it possible to apply stillness and motion to Allah while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created motionlessness or stillness and motion? How? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me. He gave me the power to stand, to sit, or to walk. So how is it possible to say Allah, al-iyazu billah, God forbid, is sitting, standing, or moving? فَإِنَّهُمَا مَخْلُقَانَ لَهُ Haraka and the stillness all were created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the ability, made me capable of moving or sitting or standing. وَيَعُودُ فِيهِ مَا هُوَ عَبْدَهُ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the power to sit. And how is it possible to refer, to attribute these qualities back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it reasonable to refer these physical qualities back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends. That is why, as I said last week, with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should use both affirmation and negation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, but not like us. وَيَحْدُثُ فِيهِ مَا هُوَ أَحْدَثُهُ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created motion and stillness. How do motion and stillness can occur to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It means that they cannot occur to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are called, philosophically speaking, a'rad, accidents. Such accidents cannot occur to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In short, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends every physical quality, because these are all created qualities. If we ascribe any of such physical attributes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means that we have relegated, reduced Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the plane or level of createdness, to the level of the creatures. This is one of the excellences of Islam over the other religions. Islam is a religion. Islam in its true sense, Shiite Islam, under the guidance of the Aimma alayhim salam, has its own unique characteristics. Saint Anselm says, Credo ut intelligam. Credo ut intelligam. What does it mean? Saint Anselm, one of the most famous Christian saints, says, first believe and then think. Credo ut intelligam. First believe and then think. No, Islam says first think and then believe. Do not believe blindly. do not accept anything without thinking. This is one of the main differences between Islam and Christianity. Where in Islam, in Shiite Islam especially, where with regard to the teachings of the Aimah can you find that just believe, تفكر ساعة خير من إبادة 60 سنة. Thinking 1 hour is better than worshipping blindly. Imam Ali says 2 groups of people broke my back. It means 2 groups of people broke my back means inflicted a lot of pain on me. The sly hypocrites, like Muawiyah and Amr al-As, who were hypocrites, but at the same time they used their satanic cleverness, their satanic intelligence, and the silly ascetics, those people who pretended to be pious but brainless, but they were brainless, simple-minded, like Abu Musa Ash'ari, right, who was selected not by Imam Ali but by some of the simple-minded fake companions of Imam Ali. Imam Ali insists on Malik al-Ashtar, suggested that he be selected as the arbiter, in contrast to Amr al-As. But some simple-minded people, and it was those simple-minded people who turned to be Khawarij, the Kharijites, finally. So one of the characteristics of Shia Islam is that reasoning, thinking, deep insight, like blood, run through the arteries of Shia Islam. Run through the arteries. You know what artery means? Of Shia Islam. In which religion can you find such a unique characteristic? I haven't found. If you have found, please let me know. I'll be thankful to you. Where in Buddhism, where in Hinduism, where in Christianity can we find such a unique characteristic, or such golden sermons as delivered by Imam Ali? Where? They just say, accept, believe, without demanding any intellectual or rational attempts or efforts. While the Aimah alayhim as-salam always advised the people to think and then to accept. If you permit, I would like to stop at this point, inshallah ta'ala. Next week I will continue explaining the rest of the khutbah. Thanks a lot.